Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2024 Ford F-150, but more specifically, it's in a color called Atlas Blue Metallic, which does look really nice in person, and there's a lot that we need to talk about because for 2024, these had a mid-generational refresh. But the Ford F-150 is actually the best-selling vehicle in America, and there's probably one that can fit most budgets because the F-150 climbs and crosses between all economic classes. So today I get to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of the F-150 to help you decide if it might be the right next vehicle for you. You can expect to see a walk around, all the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts so that you have a better understanding of what you should do with the all-new F-150. And huge thanks to the Goody Motor Group, especially Goody Motor Ford for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link them below in the description because they're a fantastic dealership to work with. Otherwise, let's dive right in with this review. But if you're new to the Ford F-150, you should know that the first generation came out back in 1948, only 3 years after World War II ended. I guess Ford supposed that it was time to start building the American people a pickup truck now that things are starting to relax. But this is actually the 14th generation of the F-150. It came out in 2021, so now for the 4th year of the 14th generation, there's a mid-generational refresh, which really isn't surprising in Ford fashion because this is the #1 selling vehicle in America. They sell 1 million units a year between Canada, the United States, and now Mexico. These are even homegrown, as in they're assembled in Michigan and Missouri. So with how many F-150s come out, Ford, they really want to perfect the formula. They want to get it right, and they want to have a lot of trim levels, a lot of updates to keep everyone happy, so that way they can have many more customers in the future. There have been well over 40 million F-150s sold worldwide, globally, since the inception of this back in 1948. Year to year, there's usually a few changes that take place between trim levels, optional packages, and accessories, but overall, this 14th generation F-150 still looks very similar to the F-150s of the last 3 years. The main differences that you'll notice, primarily if you're an F-150 enthusiast, is the front end is redesigned with the headlights and the grille. That's typical, Ford and every brand fashion when they do a mid-generational refresh. And then the interior looks a little bit different too, primarily with the infotainment screen. And while these aren't a top safety pick like the new Tundra is, it still is a 5-star crash test rated vehicle overall. There's a lot of standard safety features. There's a lot of additional optional safety features you can buy. And you can see there's cameras and there's sensors all over this thing. But between the prices and the options, there are so many different configurations of the F-150. A base regular cab with 2-wheel drive starts at about $36,000, but thankfully that includes the 5-liter Coyote engine, which is very stout, and a lot of people actually turn those into sleepers and race truck builds. But this is the Super Crew. In this configuration, there's 8 trim levels. And this one specifically is the XLT, which is on the lower half, and honestly, I think it's a more reasonable trim level. You can go as expensive as $110,000 or more for the Raptor R. I drove one of those last year. It was fantastic and honestly worth every bit of $110,000. But this XLT started its life at about $47,000 before destination, goodies, and add-ons, and now it's stickered for about $63,000, $64,000. Goody Ford does have a little bit of a discount on it, but that's just the price of modern pickups in the year 2024, whether we like it or not. Pickup trucks in the modern era are huge. It's a Super Crew with a 5.5-foot bed, so the overall length is about 19.3 feet. The overall wheelbase is about 12 feet, so it's actually pretty planted and stable on the road. The approach angle is okay. The departure angle is really not that impressive, but keep in mind, this off-road capable vehicle, it's not a Wrangler, it's not a Bronco Raptor, it's a full-size truck. So at 19 feet long, it's about 6.5 feet wide, about 6.25 feet tall. And then this one specifically with the XLT setup, it has a payload of 1,822 pounds. So even if you have 800 or 1,000 people in the cabin, you can still fit another 800 or 1,000 pounds in the bed. So it's capable, it's practical. I mentioned that because I've driven a lot of less practical vehicles like the ZR2, like some modified suspension Fords. Sometimes when you're really off-road capable, your payload decreases to about 1,000 pounds. And then this one with the 3.5-liter EcoBoost has a max tow capacity of about 13,500 pounds if everything is spec'd correctly with the rear end and everything. And then these have as little as 8.3 inches of ground clearance. A lot of them, though, have about 9.4. And if you go crazy like the Raptor R, you have almost a foot of ground clearance. There's also a lot of final drive ratios in the F-150 between a 355, now a 373, or even a more fuel efficient 331. There's a lot of options. So this one, I'm not going to get too into what its specific setup is because yours could drastically differ. These take about 51 feet to do a full circle, which is average for a truck, but quite a bit more than like a crossover that usually takes about 36 to 39. And just the last couple things to mention on the F-150's exterior, and then we'll quickly go through the interior and take it on the road and see how fast it is the gas door. It's located right there on the driver's side. And for 2024, all of these have a 36-gallon tank, but it's non-locking, so the bums can attempt to siphon your gas. This being the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, it's pretty stout in power, but also an MPG. It's rated for about 18 city, about 24 highway. So with that 36-gallon tank, your max road trip and range could be up to about 800 miles. And then this is a 33-inch tall Pirelli Scorpion all-terrain tire, or all-season, I should say, based off of what the tread is. It's actually named the ATR, but it really just looks like an all-season and tread. It's more specifically a 227, 60, 20, and then the extra spare tire right there. It's not a matching wheel. It's only an 18-inch, but at least it's the right diameter, 33-inch. So, you know, you're set if you have to change your own tire. Then this is your key. But first, I want to show you what it sounds like when it fires up. Double lock, double, you know, that button. And honestly, it sounds pretty nice. Here's a little bit of revving action. But otherwise, let's come around to the front. You can leave this thing in your pocket because you have proximity key features to lock and unlock the vehicle there. You also have the key that's hidden in the remote. And then you also have a PIN code, so there's plenty of ways to get into your F-150. The driver's side door panel, honestly, is really cool. Huge visibility, nice drop-down cutout for even more visibility. You have all your switches, your controls. There's different trim pieces depending on which model, which spec you have. A little handle right there to open it up. And then the upper tray, the basic Ford speaker on this one. Bottle holder, snacks. Nothing really, though, on the door sill. You do have this factory optioned running board that says Ford on it. It's not a electric dropping one like you saw on the Roush supercharged truck I did recently, but still, Ford likes to brand everything that they can, including their seats. They're powered, they're heated. The cloth actually feels really good. The bolstering might look aggressive, but it's really not. It's gonna fit a lot of people and contour to them just fine. And then all-weather F-150 mats, rubberized pedals, fuse box, OBD 2-port, electronic parking brake, lighting options, more options up here, tailgate drop. Ventilation, you have your windshield wiper stock. Sitting inside here honestly feels really nice. The seats, the Ford cloth seats are honestly fantastic. Armrest is where it should be. The A-pillar handle is great. And the horn, pretty standard from Ford. I do like the 6 o'clock handle. I like that you have all your voice and volume and adaptive cruise settings on the left and all of your infotainment screen settings on the right. Leather wrapped wheel. It doesn't appear to be heated, but we do have heated seats for me and the backpack. So we're going to be having a good time driving this F-150. Fires right up. There's a little bit of a Ford Built Tough graphic. And there's actually a lot that you can do through the screen. Check it out. Even where this one is getting not good MPG, spending a lot of time idling, max road trip and range still well over 600, which is super cool. But you can go through a lot of different... going through the menu, you can go through a lot of different things, and the graphics actually look pretty good. You have the shifter behind the wheel. This doesn't have the typical one down here that you can fold down and make this your work surface in your F-150 work truck. But honestly, guys, I actually prefer having the shifter up there. That's where my very first vehicle shifter was. And then you have a little bit of a rubberized storage tray up there. Auto start stop, you can leave that turned off. You have cameras. Clarity is better than it needs to be. It could be better, but it's better than a lot of other manufacturers. You have some of your parking sensor options, hazards, traction control. And then if we're just going to go through the main screen, it's a little bit laggy, as you guys can see, but you have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, so what more could you want? Otherwise, you have physical buttons, you have four-wheel drive, and you can turn this dial to go through your different modes. and you get a little bit of a Ford truck graphic on each one, which honestly is pretty cool. I wish the software had the actual color of your truck and not just a generalized Ford color. But you have the trailer brake right here. You have your drive modes. This, unfortunately, unlike the Chevys, doesn't have 4 high auto. You only have 2 high or 4 high, and then 4 low, obviously. But you have a lot of storage. USB-C and B style. It's rubberized. More storage there. You can fit some pencils, you know, some drinks. And then a huge center armrest with a lifty and a sliding tray, which I actually really like. But it's huge down there. And then there's one more plug-in right there, if you guys can see that. Otherwise, up top, you have the sunglass holder, basic LED lighting, Bluetooth speaker, or for you to speak into. No lighting though, right there, kind of interesting. Otherwise, guys, let's turn it off and I'll hop in the back and show you how it is to sit in the back of this truck. The rear passenger door panel follows all the same theme and design language. I really don't see much difference out here. You even have the middle tray, your speaker, and an extra bottle holder, which I think is a really nice touch from Ford. The running board extends out back, as it should, and then the cloth seats, they're not overly thick, so you can even store stuff under here, or you can easily lift them and access just a little bit more, and where I'm assuming your tire changing tools are under that side. But these look really nice. They look like they're gonna hold up, and like they have a good thread count. Sitting inside at 5'11", it was pretty easy to climb up. You know, I can be a backseat driver back here, but otherwise, I have cup holders, I have ventilation, and I have some plugins down here, but there's no armrest. But otherwise, it's comfortable. LED lighting up top, you can hang some stuff right there, and I have more headroom than I ever would know what to do with. Otherwise, let's hop out and I'll show you the tailgate. I honestly think that Ford did a really good job designing the back, the rear end, and the refreshed taillights on this new, 2024 model year. But the key, it actually has the feature to unlock the tailgate, allowing it to do the soft lower feature that it has. It should anyways. Maybe it didn't work just now. I heard a click. Yeah, so it actually didn't actually set it off. You did hear that it unlocked, but then it's counting on gravity to pull it down. This one does have the step feature, which I know some people really like, and you can pull out the handle right there if you want to and pivot that up and climb into the bed. You also have your yardstick, your ruler, your soda spot right there to put that down and hope the wind like we have today doesn't knock it over. And then you can put some more pencils right there. But this bed, it looks really nice in the Atlas blue metallic, although I wish instead of painting the bed, they would just give you a spray and bed liner. But you have an outlet right there, which is pretty nice. You have spots to do tie downs throughout the bed. There's actually a little bit of a shelf, a cut down right here, so you could probably fit like a 2x4 right there. Or sorry, a sheet of plywood, I mean. And then you have a little bit of a storage cubby right here, lock and unlock. It's basically copied straight from the Toyota Tacoma from the last 15 years. But overall, it's pretty nice. And when we put all this stuff back in, sorry, I needed 2 hands for that. Let's just see on camera how easy it is to lift. Okay, even though it's aluminum, it's still pretty heavy. I'm gonna skip over the passenger rear because it's basically the same as the driver's side minus the 40 split. The door panel on the F-150 is identical to the driver, minus some of the controls. Instead, Ford, thankfully, instead of just leaving that blank and boring, they gave you a little bit more of a pocket to store something. Running board again extends throughout. Powered seats with the same exact options, even the same Ford writing that we had on the other side. And then another all-weather F-150 listed floor mat. The backpack's having a good time, feeling comfortable, enjoying the heated seats. And again, look at how much headroom there is. You'd probably easily be 6'8" and still have a good time in here. There's actually some storage too, though, on the driver transmission tunnel on both sides. Locking glove box, not very big. And unfortunately, there's no USBs or 12 volts in here. And then you have the double glove box, the upper storage. Comment below, what are you gonna hide in here? There's actually quite a bit of room in there. But anyways, guys, let's come around to the front. I'm gonna pop the hood. I'll show you what the EcoBoost 3.5 liter engine looks like. And then we'll take it on the road and see how it drives and how fast of a time we can get at 0 to 60. Under the hood is a 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150 engine with 2 turbos and a split intake to go to each exhaust bank. These are really cool, and honestly, guys, it's quite windy out, so I apologize for the wind we're having today. but there's a lot of wind happening inside this engine, and there's a lot of good engineering that's taken place here. A lot of the reservoirs are easy to get to, easy to find. The filter is right there for the air intake. The battery, the fuse box, more wire harnesses, but then the actual engine, it might be a little bit of a confusing time between all the air hoses, the fuel lines, the coolant lines, but actually, surprisingly, I actually think there's quite a bit of room to work in under here. Yeah, so hopefully you never have to be under the hood working on anything more than an oil change or eventually the spark plugs. But honestly, I think there's quite a bit of room to work under here. It makes about 400 horsepower at 6,000 RPM, 500 foot-pound-feet of the twisty torque, and that's at 3,100 RPM, so the power is nice and low. With that said, let's drop the hood, take you for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the 3.5 liter F-150 is, it's honestly been a little while since I've driven a stock F-150, even though this one does have those 33-inch tires and 500 pounds of torque. This would have been a dream just a few years ago. A lot of people probably wouldn't have understood how powerful your basic, F-150 work truck with cloth seats could be. But overall, it handles really well. Turn in is actually pretty decent for a truck and a little bit better than I remember these being, but I've also mostly only driven lifted ones like the Raptor R, the Apex Roush package, a Fox lifted EcoBoost in the past. I haven't actually driven very many bone stock F-150s, and with this refresh, the screen's a little bit nicer. There's a few of the exterior accents, so those who own the new one are gonna know that it's the special one. But overall, it's 100% F-150 in here. You have really good visibility. Actually, let's go. These roads aren't very wide. Let's go to the next one. You have really good visibility though. The windshield is huge. The hood kind of waterfalls down, so you know basically exactly where you stop. Plus you can fiddle around with the camera modes if you want to see. I personally like that you can leave it on the camera when you're driving. I just think that's really neat. But the side mirrors do a good job. You do have blind spot monitoring. And with the Ford cutout, visibility is phenomenal. The A-pillar's not too wide. The B is a little bit wider, kind of a blind spot right there. The C is a bit wider still, but that doesn't really matter. With the side mirrors, you can see exactly what's going on down the side of your F-150. Although I will say at about 6.5 feet wide, it feels like my backpack is honestly pretty far away from me, which if you opt to not have the workbench in the front, the 6-seat F-150, just know that your passengers are gonna have quite a bit of room. Leg room is comfortable. Headroom, I have a few inches above my head. This one doesn't have the sunroof or anything, but there's so much space in here. And then because the cabin isn't very long, the mirror just goes right down the center of it. And it fits full-size people in the back seats. The interior of these are huge. This one does not have the B&O sound system, but the speakers do sound fine as I was listening to them earlier. It does actually feel pretty well insulated. There's not a ton of wind and road noise protruding, so these tires really aren't kicking up rocks as much as other tires might, or if I was on a worse road. And then the windows, honestly, are pretty good. If I drop the front, you guys can probably pick up on camera. There is a lot more wind noise than there is from inside, so the Ford engineers have done a good job isolating that. Overall, it's a comfortable ride, and having, over 700 miles of range when you're on a full tank of gas is literally amazing. Let's maybe slow down here, half brake pedal. It nose dives quite a bit. I don't know if you guys can see that. I certainly felt that. And let me show you that roughly 50 foot full circle that's needed. Ooh, we're cutting it close. And then right back up to speed. These are honestly really impressive. Ford's done a good job, and these feel more and more refined ever since the EcoBoost came out back in 2011. When you are in sport mode though, there's a bit of rev hang as the transmission wants to hold out gear so that you're in a better power band, and it certainly is ready to go. But anyways, with that said, let's cut to the 0 to 60 and see how fast this thing is. 0 to 60 in the 3.5 liter EcoBoost F-150. Density altitude's almost a mile above sea level, so this twin turbo engine is down on power, still a few %, but traction's off, 4 high is on. I'll do a little bit of a brake rev, and we are in sport mode. Let's see what it can do. Not bad true 0 to 60 came in at 5.91 seconds. Here's the graph. And now my final thoughts. My final thoughts of the F-150 with the refresh and this specific engine is, honestly guys, it's kind of crazy to say, but this is the least powerful F-150 I've driven in quite a while. Having driven a few supercharged 5 liters and 5.2 liters and a tuned EcoBoost in the past, this base, you know, only 400 horsepower model, it actually feels extremely stout. The fact that this nearly 20-foot long Ford F-150 pickup can do a sub 6 seconds 0 to 60, have a really good all-wheel drive system with a transfer case, 33-inch tires that honestly, with how big the body is, these 33s almost don't even look like what 33s used to look like on a lot of other vehicles when the vehicles were proportionally smaller. But honestly, I have no reservations in recommending this. As long as you guys get a good deal, as long as you've test driven the competition and you know exactly what you're getting into before you drop $60,000 on a truck from any manufacturer, be an informed buyer, and I hope my video is helpful. If it was, please comment below, like this video, and share, you know, your thoughts and opinions on the video or on your experience with trucks in general. Goody Motor will be linked below, so check them out. They're really a good group of people to work with, and subscribe if you haven't already. Otherwise, I wish you the best. I hope to see you again, and until next time, see ya.